Good morning, everyone. It is indeed a good morning because today we will know more about the foundations of the curriculum. So this is the part 2. So we are very familiar of what is meant when we say curriculum, and that is a standards-based sequence of planned experiences where students practice, achieve proficiency in content, and applied learning skills. So today we will know the third foundation of the curriculum, and that is the historical foundations. That includes the role of curriculum in achievements of nations, why curriculum guides future plans, the factors that influence development of nation, and the elimination of the useless traditions. Now let us tackle first what is the first one. So the role of the history of the curriculum in the development of curriculum. So history of the curriculum plays a very important role in the development of the nations. So in order to formulate a good curriculum, it takes a long and tedious time, because having a good curriculum represents the need of the society and the experiences of the past. Just like healing ragod, when we heal, diba, we need time to heal. So as the curriculum. So if you were wondering if nabay curriculum sa una, that is definitely yes. During the ancient times, it has already a curriculum, but the main focus or the main purpose of teaching was only for survival. But our world is evolving, so now the education became formal and curriculum development evolved as well, like as systematic, planned, purposeful, and progressive. So the history of the curriculum tells the curriculum planner how to develop and modify the curriculum, what to teach, and what should be the core material of the subjects, what objectives they want to achieve through the curriculum. History also tells them how the teacher should teach, what are the best practices they need to incorporate in curriculum teaching, and what kind of teaching need to be avoided. So why is it important to have a curriculum? So a curriculum is a structured guide that outlines the goals, the learning experiences, the objectives, the instructional resources, and assessments that comprise a specific educational program nga magtabang sa teachers to make more perspective and detailed content. The history of the curriculum also explains the teacher's psychology at different time and how to improve their learning styles. It also provides information about the psychology of the students, how they learn and what they want to learn. In times, curriculum change its shapes and patterns. So like before, we have this so-called teacher-centered curriculum where the teacher talks while students passively learn, diba? And it has its quick transition that became a learner-centered curriculum that facilitates a more collaborative way for students to learn. So the history of the curriculum also changed the teaching methods, which researchers find new ways to teach, and it is also becoming part of a curriculum. Especially now, teachers are handling the 21st century learners. So that is why ilang way of teaching, dili lang sila mo stick on what is being used, but they should think more of a creative and active teaching. Today, majority of the developed countries are those countries who have a long history of freedom and proper education system. They achieve their success through education and implementation of time-needed curriculum. The curriculum development plays a vital role in improving the economy of a country because it provides answers and solutions to our certain issues and conditions such as environment or socio-economics and other related issues like poverty, climate change, and so on and so forth. So next in line we have the history helps in the eliminations of useless traditions. So the history of education tells the curriculum developer what not to include in the curriculum, what of lessons can bring no good to the curriculum, and what type of contents material are good for the teaching learning process. So history of the curriculum eliminate all those useless traditions from the modern curriculum and help the developer to incorporate what is needed for the curriculum. As I have said, because of the history of the curriculum, we have a deeper and better understanding on it, which we can decide what should be good lessons we can impart to our students to help them as well be better on the future. So before we proceed to our next discussion, let us have a very quick guessing game. So I will flash up pictures on this screen, and all you have to do is to guess who is that person I am referring to. So I will only give you 10 seconds to guess. So, who is the person I am referring to? Okay, very good. The person or the philosopher I am referring to is Plato. Okay, I bet no one in this meeting aren't familiar with the person or the philosopher I am referring to. But if you don't, so meet Plato. So Plato was the earliest, most important Greek philosopher and educational thinker. I remember a quote of Plato about education, and he says that education is the first and the fairest thing that the best of men can ever have. For him, the aim of education is the welfare of both the safety of the society and the food of individual. So Plato thinks education as a key for a society, and he stressed on education. For this purpose, he wanted to go to the extreme level, even removing children from their mothers and raise them by the state. He wanted to identify the skills of the children and give them proper education for that particular skill which they have, so they could become a suitable member of the society and fulfill their duty on society. So there are different stages of education that Plato describes. So let us start with the first one. So the first stage is, according to Plato, the education of child should be start at the age of 7 years, and before this stage, the child should stay with their mother or elders and learn moral education from them. So learning should starts from our home, especially moral education. So our parents serves as our first teacher to learn those, and both genders should be allowed to play with each other. So the second stage is at the age of 17. So during these years, they should be teach music and early education. Why music? Because music is chosen as a medium of education, an avenue for the spiritual growth, and ideas are the content of education in this stage. So the third stage is meant for cadetship and is related to physical and military training. The youth should be brought to battlefield to learn real-life experiences. Okay, the next one the fourth stage is the start at the age of 25 to 30 years, where advanced mathematics and the relation to reality are taught. Here, students undergo mathematical training preparatory to dialect. Plato has highlighted the qualities needed for an individual to enter higher education. He proclaimed that preference should be given to the surest, bravest, fairest, and those who have the natural gifts to facilitate their education, and that is the educator. So after the completion, the selected ones are admitted in the study of dialect. So during the fifth stage, they study dialect for another 5 years, and after that, at the sixth stage, one is ready to become a ruler and a philosopher, and the one enter in a practical life. So those are the stages of education according to Plato. So the 11th century was a dark era for education. Few people in Western Europe were receiving any kind of schooling, and across the globe, contributions were being made to the future of education. So now let us have a time machine and let us go back to see the first invention that was being made. So are you familiar with the printing by movable type? So that is created by China in 1045 and proved to be one of the most powerful inventions of this era, which affect the curriculum development process and bring new change in the improvement of curriculum and contents of the curriculum. So speaking of printing, don't you know that the first paper mill was built in France in 1338? Paper was a Chinese invention, Jude, but around 600 AD, brought to Europe by the Arabs in the 11th century. So that's it. It is indeed change is inevitable and constant. The curriculum has changed and developed a lot in over the years, but one thing has never changed. It's the purpose of curriculum, and that is to make good progress and achieve excellence.
So now we will know about Imam Ghazali curriculum. So who is Imam Ghazali class? Abu Hamid al-Ghazali, known in Persian-speaking countries as Imam Muhammad al-Ghazali. He was also a Persian polymath who was one of the most prominent and influential philosophers. The great educator of Islam, Imam Ghazali was born in 1059 AD near Taz in Khorasan, a part of then Persia. Imam al-Ghazali, known as the Proof of Islam, he is one of the great Hurrist theologians and mystics of the 6th or 12th century. He wrote on a wide range of topics including jurisprudence, theology, mysticism, and philosophy. Al-Ghazali believed that the Islamic spiritual tradition had become moribund and that the spiritual sciences taught by the first generation of Muslims had been forgotten. His educational philosophy based on his personal experience. The philosophy, which over a period of 10 years resembles to the philosophy of Plato. His personal experience and concluded the reasons. According to Imam Ghazali, there are 4 categories of knowledge. In Al-Ghazali's view, true knowledge is the knowledge of God, His books, His prophets, His creation, including the kingdoms of earth and heavens. It also includes the knowledge of Sharia as revealed by his prophet. The more one comprehends such knowledge, the better he knows God and the closer he comes to Him. So, first category of knowledge is prophetic. Prophetic is a characteristic of a prophet or prophecy. The most striking claim that Al-Ghazali makes about the prophets is that they are the happiest people, for they have achieved the ultimate goal of human existence. Al-Ghazali writes that every person is born with a knowing pain in the soul, resulting from a disconnection from the ultimate reality. A prophecy is a message that is claimed by a person to have been communicated to them by a deity. Such messages usually involve inspiration, interpretation, or revelation of divine will concerning the prophet's social world and events to come. Next is the rulers. Rulers is a systematic approach to self-develop at the Center for Emotional Intelligence. Ruler aims to infuse the principles of emotional intelligence into the immune system of to pre-K to 12 schools, informing how leaders lead, teachers teach, students learn, and families support students. Next is the philosophers or scholars. These are the people who have command and expertise in any of the curriculum components. Philosophy provides educators, teachers, and curriculum makers with framework for planning, implementing, and evaluating curriculum. It helps in answering what educational institutions are for, what subjects are important, how students should learn, and what materials and methods should be used. The term curriculum refers to the lessons and academic content taught in a school or in a specific course or program. An individual teacher's curriculum, for example, would be the specific learning standards, lessons, assignments, and materials used to organize and teach a particular course. Philosophy is, in decision making, philosophy provides the starting point and will be used for the succeeding decision making. Study of philosophy helps us deal with our own personal system of beliefs and values. Example, the way we perceive the world around us and how we define what is important to us. As philosophical issues have always influenced society and institutions of learning, a study of the philosophy of education in terms of curriculum development is essential. In essence, a philosophy of education influences and to a large extent determines our educational decisions and alternatives. Those who are responsible for curricular decisions, therefore, should be there about what they believe. If we are unclear or confused about our own beliefs, then our curricular plans are bound to be unclear and confusing. So, scholars are the people who have commanded an expertise in any of the curriculum components. The article focuses on the role of the curriculum scholars in Pakistan and how and what type of changes they can initiate to bring harmony and tolerance, character, and equality in development of curricula. It is a qualitative study based on historical evidences and current researches highlighting the importance and role of curriculum scholars and meeting the world-class education system. The issues and trends mentioned by developed countries' curriculum experts pave way to synthesize them with local rising issues and trends. It is imperative for scholars to have effective communication skills and dynamic personality to incorporate the future trends without creating conflicts and confusion in the society. They need to know the skill to motivate and mold high ups for the future changes and bring changes without development of controversies. Lastly is the preachers, a person who delivers a sermon publicly. So, the formation of the preacher, this course focuses in the holistic formation of the preacher. Students will experiment with and implement practices that foster spiritual, emotional, relational, intellectual, ministerial, and physical health and vitality by reading and reflecting on class devotional texts, participating in the monastic life, and learning from national known preachers. So preachers, they are also meant to fulfill the religious needs of the society and train outer and inner self. Their job is to promote knowledge, improve the life of people and help them to acquire desirable ethics through education. So, the importance of knowledge is in the prophetic is prophets convey the message of God regardless of any discrimination and help to purify the inner self. Then the ruler is that they use their authority, legislation, and rules to train and guide the society. And while the philosophers or scholars, their knowledge benefits only selected individuals but for the benefiting masses. So next is the curriculum. Ghazali strongly criticizes the curriculum of his time. He raises the basic question of criteria for selection and subject matter for curriculum. He studied the various curriculums in his times and reached the following conclusions. More time is spent on religious education and worldly education is completely ignored. Worldly education is equally important, while teaching religious education, a great number of differences arise among the teachers, which result in mudslinging rather in each other. There is no prioritization and it is only left to the interest and opinions of the teachers to concentrate on certain subjects while ignore others. Last is no place for correcting building in curriculum. Now we are moving on about methods of teaching and techniques. Ghazali has recommended the following teaching methods and techniques, which are based on psychological principles. These methods and techniques are widely used, and educators all over the world agree with their usefulness, and today they are the foundation of curriculum development process. First is the teaching of lessons to be based on previous knowledge and experience of the students. Teachers should simplify the difficult concepts by stories, tales, etc. Otherwise, his or her teaching will not be effective. This helps to know the ability, knowledge, and aptitude of the learner and helps to motivate students towards the lesson, which is very important for the educational process. John Herbert and Pistoluzzi recommended the same principle about 700 years after Ghazali. Next is the move from simple to complex. This is a very important principle of today's curriculum which was presented by Ghazali at those times. History of curriculum laid down the basic foundation of curriculum development. So, some teachers try to teach everything in the very start. This is very dangerous and can create very dull students. Next is the proper planning. Ghazali stresses the importance of planning and advises that teachers should do his preparation before teaching to make it effective. Also, Ghazali stresses that teachers should first teach simpler concepts, and when the students are motivated towards lesson, then he can introduce complex concepts. In addition about proper planning, the teachers should avoid the use of force. He should be like a father to his students and should use love and affection instead of corporal punishment. Use of force can lead to bad habits among students. So teacher and students should also have a good social relationship. Avoid double standards. Teacher rather is like a guide to students. He should not be hypocrite and should breed good qualities like honesty, good etiquette, good moral, character, etc.
Abilities of students. Ghazal stresses that while teaching, the abilities of students should be kept in mind. Concepts which are above the mental level of the students will not make the teaching effective. Today, in modern curriculum, teachers are asked to keep in mind the individual differences. So in the era of colonists, the colonists came to Indo-Pak, and they set up schools exactly like the ones they knew in Europe. The curriculum was centered on the learning of letters, numbers, and prayers. Their strict learning environment did not allow for crafts nor recess breaks, and only 1 out of 10 children attend school. So, these are the common characteristics shared by these colonies. First, religious education. Its major aim was personal salvation. Second, education was centered on social class, dual system or class system. The children of workers should have minimal primary education. They learn the 4S, which is the reading, writing, arithmetic, and religion. Third, with the exception of few schools, education was only for boys. Fourth, most children in colonial times received their education through informal means such as family, the farm, and the shop. Changes in educational philosophy and curriculum came about this era as well. In 1901, John Dewey wrote The Child and the Curriculum, the latter Democracy and Education, in which he shows concern for the relationship between society and education. Dewey was a philosopher, psychologist, and educator. And also, his philosophy of education focused on learning by doing rather than rote memorization. He criticized the old education system which keeps students busy. From Dewey's educational philosophy came the emphasis on experience, activity, and problem solving that helped to reshape our thinking education and schooling. Maria Montessori opened her first school in the 1907. Maria Montessori was credited with developing a classroom without walls, manipulative learning materials, teaching toys, and program instruction. Many considered her to be the 20th century's leading advocate for early childhood education. Anna Freud, Jean Piaget, Alfred Adler, and Erik Erikson studied under Montessori and made their own contributions to education and child philosophy. The civil rights movement and technology changed the face of the 20th century classroom. In the 1990s, computers invade the classroom around the world, and now it is the most important part of the curriculum. In short, history is the foundation of modern curriculum. History and its influence to curriculum. The history of one's country can affect its educational system and the kind of curriculum it has. If we are going to trace the formal beginning of curriculum, we get back in time to Franklin Bobbitt's book entitled The Curriculum, which was published in 1918. From the time of Bobbitt to Tyler, many developments in the purposes, principles, and contents of curriculum took place.
A pleasant day to each and everyone. I am Elira Bendia Alpizar, and now as we move forward and get to know the fourth foundation of the curriculum, which is the social foundation or social cultural foundation. But before we move forward, let us know first what is social foundation or socio-cultural foundation. So, socio-cultural foundation is a program that addresses fundamental questions about the meaning, purpose, and significance of education in society. In social and cultural foundations, students examine these debates and explore the significance of education in the society. So, this is the social foundation or the social cultural foundation. And also, curriculum bring about social change and social factors have an influence on curriculum, right? And therefore, curricular planners have to be concerned about social factors, that's right, and the way they can be used to plan and develop responsibility to social problems. So let us now know what is social cultural foundation. So according to Murray Print in 1993, the society and culture exercise massive powers on the formation curriculum, and the reason behind that is was society who created schooling to safeguard the survival of their cultural heritage and survival of their species. Yes, it is because as we enhance and improve our education, there are changes, right? And change is inevitable, right? We cannot change. Change is the only constant here on earth, and we should accept that. And that is and that is also in the field of education. There's also change. And the significance of social foundation of the curriculum is that social foundations inquiry helps to sharpen the students' capacities to understand, analyze, and explain educational issues, policies, and practices in order to improve education. So the purpose of curriculum planner and developers to translate traditional norms, philosophies, ethics, knowledge, and attitudes in the objectives of curriculum. The content, learning processes, and the evaluation of elements of the curriculum. So, sociological factors have highest impact on the content of curriculum, and that is the reason that curriculum developers and planner both reflect and transfer their own culture in curriculum. Therefore, a curriculum without the reflection of culture is not possible. For that reason, one should consider what characteristics of the culture should be part of curriculum and what not. That is why culture is still significant up at this generation, and we cannot deny the fact that our culture gives impact or still is significant or important in today's learning, in today's progress. And social and cultural inspirations that affect curriculum, designers consciously and unconsciously are apparent from the curriculum, and their influence is deep. Yes. For example, in Pakistan, the curriculum is more reflective of the society, and curriculum is designed in a way that leads society to change, right? The society manifests through the curriculum and education, and the outcomes of the curriculum developers display the role of both of the above in curriculum development. Because curriculum developers are the part of the society, therefore, they indirectly affected by the society and culture. Their cultural standards, attitudes, and beliefs leave deep impact on the individuals because the curriculum designers influence the selection of objectives, subject matter, teaching learning, the methods, and the process of evaluation. And another example for that is that, for example, a group of teachers formulated a new course for teaching in schools in to enhance the quality of the subject in curriculum. Okay? So after the completion of the subject matter, when analyzed again, one could not determine some lesson were eliminated and some were included in the course. How the old content was evaluated, even the teacher who constructed the curriculum for the subject was unable to clearly say what was the basis of their decisions. So if story reading was a component of the revised curriculum, what proportion would be real reading? And why? And what would be the method of the assessment of that lesson, right? What stories were selected and why these are the questions need to be asked from the curriculum developers. On the other hand, maybe curriculum developers are well aware of society needs and they have planned intention to incorporate all those things in the curricula which the society need which society needs, and they have planned intention to incorporate all those things in the curricula which the society need in the curriculum. But the question is that the curriculum should student-centered or society-centered, right? Let us think about that question right now, as in right now. Think about that question. Is it need to be student-centered or society-centered? So, curriculum should be a tool for guiding the students' potentialities in directions or to develop those potentialities without any restrictions. Some social values, changes, and conditions are included into some extent in some of the curriculum projects in the content of current social issues and problems such as rapid growth of population, democratic values, urbanization, and management problems could be found in proposed program. Some vital problems and topics are considered in relation to concepts and key ideas drawn from the disciplines. In other way in which the social situation is used as a source of content and information for the curriculum formulation may be found in the present day situations that are selected to light up the concepts and main ideas from the selected disciplines. Another example for this is that in mathematics program, there may be some problems of social significance for which student may use mathematical concepts to solve the problem. Or in other societal science program, socially important situations may be used to encompass and expand concepts and generalizations. Therefore, it can be concluded that social and cultural forces have deep effect upon the curriculum. To find how much and to which degree the society and culture affect the education system of that society is controversial issue. Curriculum developer are the part of that society and culture. Therefore, they should keep in mind that their decision could affect their culture and society. Therefore, their decision should be culturally related to the society needs and values. And when a societal goal become an educational objective, then the school, teacher, and student must make efforts to achieve it, and for that purpose, appropriate educational facilities and methods must be planned. If there is a conflict between the objectives and aims of majority and minority groups, the aims of larger group is accepted. That will be all, and I hope that you have learned something regarding of the fourth foundation of the curriculum, which is the social foundation.
Day to each and everyone. So, in continuation with the discussion about the social cultural foundation, let us move on to the goals of education emerge from the needs or the wishes of the society. So, what is a goal? A goal is an idea of the future or desired result that a person or a group of people envision, plan, and commit to achieve. People endeavor to reach goals within a finite time by setting deadlines. So, it's the same with our lives. We have goals and desires that we want to achieve later and in the future. So same goes with any institutions or programs. There must be a goal. So now let's talk about the goal of education. So when a society urge a need or a goal, it becomes an educational objective, and the school accepted that demand, and they attempt to attain that goal by putting it into school objectives. And when a societal goal become an educational objective, then the school, teacher, and the students must make their efforts to achieve it, and for that purpose, appropriate educational facilities and methods must be planned. So the social foundations of the curriculum. Before that, let us dig deeper to the meaning of a social foundations, especially in education. So, this is an exploration and analysis. So, the second illustration or picture shown is Mr. John Dewey. So, who is John Dewey? So, John Dewey was an American philosopher, psychologist, and educational reformer whose ideas have been influential in education and social reform. He was one of the most prominent American scholars in the first half of the 20th century. So, John Dewey's contributions are considered two fundamental elements: schools and the civil society, to be a major topics needing attention and reconstruction to encourage experimental intelligence and plurality. So the third one is Alvin Toffler. So Alvin Toffler was an American writer, futurist, a businessman known for his works discussing modern technologies including the digital revolution and the communication. He is regarded as one of the world's outstanding futurist. So his contributions to the curriculum are: he wrote the book of the Future Shock, believed that knowledge should prepare students for the future, suggested that in the future parents might have the resources to teach prescribed curriculum from home as a result of technology, not in spite of it, or homeschooling. Foresaw schools and students work creatively, collaboratively, and independent of their change.
Next is the legal foundation, legal basis of education in the Philippines. Educational Decree of 1863, the decree provided for the establishment of primary school for boys and girls in each town of the country. Next is the Act Number 74 of 1901, enacted into the law by the Philippine Commission, the act created the Department of Public Instruction, laid the foundation of the public school system in the Philippines, provided for the establishment of the Philippine Normal School in Manila, and made English as medium of instruction. In 1949, the Philippine Normal School was made a teacher's college by virtue of RA 416, and in 1991, it became a full-fledged university by virtue of RA 7168. The next is the Act Number 1870 of 1908. The law served as the legal basis for the creation of the University of the Philippines. The next is Vocational Act of 1927, also known as the Act of Number 3377. The Vocational Act, as amended by other acts, laid the foundation of vocational education in public schools and made provision for its support. Education Act of 1940, also known as Commonwealth Act Number 586. The Education Act laid the foundation for the present sixth-year elementary course and made provisions for its support. The next is Reorganization Act of 1947. The Act placed public and private schools under the supervision and control of the Bureau of Public and Private School. The next one is the Republic Act 5250 of 1966. The Act provided the legal basis for the implementation of the 10-year teacher education program in special education. Next is Department of Education, Culture, and Sports, or also known as DEX, Order Number 25 of 1974, popular known as the Bilingual Educational Program, and 1974. The order required the use of English as medium of instruction for science and mathematics subjects, and the use of Filipino as medium of instructions for all the subjects in the elementary and high school levels. The next is the Presidential Decree Number 1006 of 1976. The decree was a legal and formal recognition of teachers as professional and teaching as a profession. Republic Act Number 5698. The Act created the Legal Education Board, whose task was to regulate and improve the quality of law schools in the Philippines in order to stop the increasing number of examinees who fail to pass the bar examinations given every year. The Republic Act 6655 of 1988, popularly known as the Free Public Education Act of 1988, the Act created a system of free education in public high schools. The next is the Department of Education, Culture, and Sports, or also known as DEX, Order Number 49 of 1992. This order serves as the guideline for the selection of honor students in all public and private high schools. All these schools were required to choose one valedictorian and one salutatorian, and to set the limit of the number of honorable mention to 1% of the graduating students. The eligibility requirements for becoming an honor student are the following: no grade below 80 in any subject and no failing grade in any subject in the first 2 curriculum years. Second is completed third and fourth year studies in the same secondary school. Third is completed the high school curriculum within the prescribed year. Fourth one is active membership in 2 clubs during the third and fourth years in high school. And the last is conform the school rules and policies. Department of Education, Culture, and Sports, or DEX, Order Number 1 of 1994, this order increased the number of school days to 200 days, 42 calendar in the weeks, inclusive of examination days for public and private schools. This department order is similar to RA 7791. which increased the number of school days from 185 to 200 days. Department of Education, Culture and Sports or DEX Order Number 37 of 1994. This order required all grade 6 elementary students to take the National Elementary Assessment Test or NEET that is given on the 13th Tuesday following the opening of the school year. Assessment tests consist of a battery of tests of the multiple choice type. There are 4 subject areas, which are English, Mathematics, Science, and Geograpia or Kasaysayan or Civica, or also known as Geography, History, and Civics. The next is the Department of Education, Culture and Sports or DEX Order Number 38 of 1994. The order required all senior high school students to take the National Secondary Assessment Test or NSAT that is given on the 30th Friday following the opening of the school year or 3 days of the NEET has been given. The assessment test consists of a battery of tests and there are 4 subject areas, which are the English and Filipino proficiencies, mathematics, vocational aptitude, and science and technology. The test is not required for college admission.
Next is the Republic Act No. 7731. The Act abolished the National College Entrance Examinations, or NCEE, to give the marginalized students a greater chance to gain access to college education. Repealing for the purpose Presidential Decree No. 146 was approved last June 1994. Briefly, the requirement of an entrance examination for entry into initial 4-year tertiary bachelor's program under PD 146 was abolished. All those who had failed the NCEE in prior years may now be considered for admission to all tertiary programs, and no national entrance examinations shall henceforth be required for post-secondary degree program. Next is the Republic Act No. 7722, also known as the Higher Education Act of 1994. The Act created the Commission on Higher Education, or CHED, whose main task is to regulate and develop tertiary education in the Philippines. It is stated in the Section 2 Declaration of Policy that the state shall protect, foster, and promote the right of all citizens to affordable quality education at all levels and shall take appropriate steps to ensure that education shall be accessible to all. The state shall likewise ensure and protect academic freedom and shall promote its exercise and observance for the continuing intellectual growth, the advancement of learning and research, the development of responsible and effective leadership, the education of high-level and middle-level professionals, and the enrichment of our historical and cultural heritage. Next is the Republic Act No. 7796, also known as the Technical, Educational, and Skills Development Act, or TESDA, of 1994. The Act's objective was to provide relevant and quality technical education that is accessible to all and to create the agency that will manage technical education and skills development in the Philippines. Technical Education and Skills Development Act of 1994, which was signed into law by President Fidel V. Ramos on August 25, 1994. This act aims to encourage the full participation of and mobilize the industry, labor, local government units, and technical vocational institutions in the skills development of the country's human resource. Next is the Republic Act No. 7836 of 1994. It is also known as the Philippine Teachers Professionalization Act of 1994. The act made it mandatory for people pursuing a career in teaching to take the licensure examinations that are administered and regulated by the Professional Regulatory Commission. And lastly is the Department of Education, or DepEd, Order No. 34 of 2001. The order required all public elementary and high school students to read at least one book in the vernacular and one book in English per year before they can be promoted to the next higher level. Education is a necessity and a right of every individual. Without proper education, we might find it a bit hard surviving life. Most of the Filipinos value the importance of education and are striving hard just to finish their studies, for they know that after all those hard works, a bright future awaits them. We are very fortunate to have such laws in our Constitution that deals with education. It is stated in the law that it is the government's responsibility to provide quality and accessible education to every Filipino citizen. And I think that they've done that, for there are public and private schools in the country where students can attend and learn. However, not all those people who want to be educated have enough money to support their education. Good thing, it is also the government's job to provide scholarships and other incentives to deserving students in order for them to be able to continue their studies. There are really existing scholarships and tuition discounts to help those students who are really in need of financial support for their studies. Also, it is mandated in the Constitution that the government shall provide free public education for elementary and high school levels only. Philippines and functions of CHED, DepEd, and TESDA. According to some legal basis of education in the Philippines, there is an order provided for the establishment of primary school for boys and girls. Other acts that laid the foundation of vocational education in the public schools and made their provisions for its support. The implementation for free access to public education in elementary and high school level, also the acts for the freedom of establishment of private schools which should be accredited by DepEd and CHED. This is very natural for the government to have this kind of responsibility to let every citizen in our country be educated through the free education of primary and secondary levels. But I don't think this is enough because I believe that the budget for education, which has the highest value among the other projects of the government, is enough to have a free access also for tertiary level. How can the Filipinos be productive if the most of us don't have enough education? Another thing, although vocational education in public schools were made, I don't think this is enough because our country needs professionals. That's why we should study more, especially to have field specialization, because I believe that every person has a gift from God. Although we are very unique in every way, we are all capable of doing this. That is innate, and this is what we call talent. The DepEd, CHED, and TESDA are the government agencies established to have control in every sectors of our education system. So the Department of Education is in charge with the elementary and secondary levels. Its main function is to provide quality basic education that is equitable, accessible to all, and lay foundation for lifelong learning and service for the good. Basically, the aim of DepEd is to give the students basic needs, competence, and knowledge that they need in life. With their function, it is their responsibility to cater the needs of the students that will guide them in understanding further the complex things that they will be facing in the future. As it was stated, this department should provide the students with the foundation and the basic knowledge that they will be carrying for a lifetime. The responsibility and function of DepEd must be really done, simply because it is where the students will be honed, and it will serve as a preparation as to what they can experience and go through in their lives. CHED is somewhat similar to the function of DepEd, but the only difference is that this agency is responsible to the tertiary level and the quality of education is in higher degree, but they focus on enhancing the knowledge and skills the students acquired from the previous levels of learning. Also, this agency lets the students choose what field they have interest and help them properly train to be competitive students and to be a productive workers after they graduated. I think the responsibility of the CHED is crucial because they need to expose the students in real-life activities that will help the students to cope well in the authentic environment. There are those people who may not excel much in their academics, but are gifted when it comes to skills-based work. Good thing there is technical education and there are those people who may not excel much in their academics, but are gifted when it comes to skills-based work. Good thing there is Technical Education and Skills Development Authority or TESDA that provides courses that are skills-based. This is also beneficial for people who cannot afford to pay colleges and universities. This is also for people who are adults, old, or even those who were not able to graduate from the basic education. In short, this is for everyone who aims to learn and develop such skills. Through TESDA, education is made accessible and available for all. TESDA helps a person to be skilled and equipped with knowledge and abilities that they must use to make their lives bountiful. Truly, this program helps every citizen to make use and develop their technical, vocational, and other skills in order to be successful and, of course, earn money in a legal way. One can be successful in life even without attaining college degrees because patience, dedication, talent, and hard work are the traits that an individual should possess in order to survive. Our education in the Philippines may not be as good as the other countries, but I believe that little by little, our education system will enhance and develop that will lead into catering the needs of the students. What we need is a great teacher who will inspire and teach well the students to make them better and greater in the future.